The clock on the wall ticked past 11:07 p.m., its hands dragging like the seconds of Harper Quinn's life. Outside, the Ohio sky was a thunderous curtain of rain, the kind that drowns car engines and drowns out thoughts. Inside the oak light grill, the lights flickered in a nervous rhythm, casting long shadows on faded checkerboard tiles. Harper, 26 and running on fumes, wiped down the counter with a damp rag. Her wrists ached from 10 hours of lifting plates and pouring coffee. Her sneakers, thrifted and cracked at the soles, squished slightly with every step. They were soaked from walking to the diner in the storm because her car, an '04 Saturn that had seen better centuries, refused to start again. The bell above the diner's door jingled faintly, barely audible above the static hum of the rain. Harper looked up instinctively, already rehearsing her tired smile. But what walked in wasn't a customer. It was chaos. A man stumbled in like a ghost escaping a nightmare. He was older, late 60s maybe, with silver hair drenched and plastered to his forehead. His coat hung from his shoulders like it weighed 100 pounds. He clutched his chest, eyes wide with confusion, and collapsed to the ground without a sound. Dishes clattered. A fork hit the floor. Someone screamed. Harper froze for less than a second, then instinct kicked in. "Call 911!" she shouted, vaulting over the counter. Her voice cracked with urgency, but her hands were steady. She knelt beside the stranger, placing her fingers on his neck. No pulse. Cold skin. She didn't hesitate. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing. She laced her fingers together, placed her palms over his sternum, and began compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Come on. Stay with me," she whispered, her arms shaking. Around her, people stared. One man held up his phone, filming. A couple whispered near the jukebox, but no one came to help. Only Harper moved. Only Harper cared. Rain lashed the windows like it wanted. In 10 compressions. Still no breath. Her mind screamed with fear, but her body kept going. Chest compressions, rescue breaths, chest compressions, rescue breaths. At last, the bell over the door rang again, this time louder, urgent. 2 paramedics burst in with a stretcher. "You did CPR?" one asked. Harper nodded, breathless. "You may have just saved his life." She backed away slowly, her knees soaked from the floor, her hands trembling. She didn't sleep that night. Not really. She went home to her 1-bedroom apartment where the heater coughed like it had asthma and her mother's oxygen machine hummed in the silence. Her mother, a former librarian named Martha Quinn, was asleep on the recliner, an Afghan tucked over her thin legs. The cancer treatments had left her fragile, like paper that could tear with a sigh. Harper leaned down and kissed her mother's forehead. Tomorrow, there would be bills to open, medical forms to fill, debt collectors to ignore, and work. Always work. But tonight, her mind was stuck on that man, that stranger, his face, the moment he fell, the moment she realized no one else was going to save him, and the fact that she never got his name. The next morning brought no sunshine, only more gray skies and damp socks. Harper sat at the kitchen table, sipping instant coffee from a chipped mug. Her phone buzzed, lighting up with another notification from Midwest Recovery Agency. She sighed, ready to silence it. Then another buzz came, this one an email, from an unfamiliar address. The subject line stopped her heart. Incident at Oaklight Grill. Her stomach twisted. Lawsuit? Complaint? She clicked the message with trembling fingers. "Miss Harper Quinn, I am writing on behalf of Camden and Royce LLP, legal representatives, of Mr. Silas Camden. Please contact our office immediately regarding a matter of great urgency and personal gratitude. This is not a solicitation or error. You may reach us at 212-555-0312. Regards, Victor Langston, senior partner. Harper blinked, rereading the name. Silas Camden? That name scratched at her memory. Familiar, weighty, important. She Googled it. Silas Camden, founder and CEO of Camden Financial Group. Net worth, $4.2 billion. The man she'd pulled off the diner floor wasn't just a stranger, he was one of the richest men in the country. Harper stared at her reflection in the diner's bathroom mirror that afternoon. Same tired eyes, same pale lips, same cracked hands. She looked like someone who worked for tips, lived paycheck to paycheck, counted quarters at the gas pump, not someone who rubbed shoulders, literally, with billionaires. She stepped out of the restroom and into another shift. The lunch rush was slower than usual. Maybe the storm had kept people home. Her manager, Dale, gave her a nod from the kitchen. "Hey, Harper," he called. "That guy you saved? Saw you on the local news this morning. You looked heroic." She forced a smile. Just did what anyone would do. But that was a lie. Not everyone would have acted. She knew that. Later that night, she finally worked up the courage to call the number in the email. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "This is Victor Langston's office." She introduced herself, feeling awkward and small. There was a pause. Then, genuine warmth. "Miss Quinn, we've been expecting your call." Within moments, she was on a flight to New York, paid in full by Camden and Royce. She still didn't know why. All she knew was that she had followed her heart in a moment of chaos. And now, something was waiting on the other side of that decision. Something bigger than bills, bigger than broken cars. Something life-changing. Harper Quinn had never been on a plane before. She gripped the armrest of her window seat like it might detach from the plane at any moment, her knuckles white and tense. Outside, clouds gathered like ghosts across the sky, and below her, the world stretched in shades of gray and silver. Somewhere far below, her little apartment in Ohio hummed with silence. Her mother was in the care of a neighbor, unaware her daughter was thousands of feet in the air, flying toward answers. Harper herself barely understood. She stared at the folded email in her coat pocket again. It was real, every letter typed, every line read. "Mr. Camden wishes to meet you in person. Time is sensitive, he insists." She didn't know whether to be terrified or honored. By the time her taxi pulled up to the towering glass skyscraper, labeled Camden and Royce LLP, the drizzle had returned, coating Manhattan in a soft silver mist. Harper stepped out, her thrift store boots clicking against wet pavement. People passed by in tailored coats and designer umbrellas, barely giving her a glance. She swallowed the lump in her throat. She didn't belong here. The lobby was cathedral-like. Marble floors, gold trim, sleek elevators that made no sound. She clutched her worn handbag close, afraid the security guard might stop her. But the moment she stepped in, a receptionist smiled as if expecting her. "Miss Quinn?" Harper nodded. "Mr. Langston will see you now." Victor Langston looked exactly like someone who ran billion-dollar estate matters. Gray temples, crisp navy suit, and an expression that blended gravity with grace. But when he rose to shake her hand, it wasn't with condescension. It was with quiet admiration. "It's an honor to meet you, Miss Quinn," he said. You saved Mr. Camden's life." Harper flushed. "I just did CPR. That's not heroic. It's basic first aid." Langston's eyes softened. "Basic or not, no one else moved. You did." He motioned for her to sit, then opened a leather folder. "Mr. Camden has asked me to read this letter aloud to you. He penned it this morning." Harper's heartbeat quickened. Langston cleared his throat. "Dear Miss Quinn, when I collapsed that night, I didn't know if I would ever open my eyes again. I've had money for longer than most people have had memories. But it took dying. Truly, dying, to realize I'd never really lived among the people who matter. You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask for a reward. You didn't hesitate. You saw a man on the ground and fought for his life. That kind of courage is rare, priceless. I owe you more than gratitude. I owe you a second chance, the kind I've squandered for decades. Enclosed is a deed to a home I no longer need, a check to restart your life, and the promise of my full support in whatever dream you've hidden beneath your daily survival. You saved me, Harper. And now, I hope this gives you the chance to save yourself. With deepest respect, Silas Camden Harper's eyes welled up. She clutched her hands tightly in her lap. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? Langston smiled gently. Because you didn't wait for someone else to act. Mr. Camden has wealth, yes. But in his words, you have wealth of the soul. He handed her a black envelope. Heavy, luxurious. Inside, Harper found 3 items: a deed to a 2-bedroom brownstone in Hudson Valley, a check for $500,000, a handwritten note that simply said, "Use this well. Then give someone else a reason to believe." The room spun. Her rent was 3 months overdue. Her mother's chemo had been delayed because they couldn't pay. Her car barely made it to the grocery store. And now, she was holding the kind of gift that could rewrite everything. I can't accept this, she said, tears threatening to spill. This is too much. I didn't do anything to deserve. Langston cut her off kindly. You saved a man's life. That, Miss Quinn, is everything. That evening, Harper stood in front of the brownstone she now owned. The keys sat heavy in her palm, cool from the rain. It was beautiful, brick and ivy, a soft glow from the porch light. Inside, there were hardwood floors, bookshelves lined with classics, and a fireplace that made it feel like a dream. A basket sat on the counter filled with fresh fruit and a handwritten welcome card from the caretaker. She didn't know what to do with it, how to move, how to breathe. It was too much, too good, too unbelievable. She called her mother. "Mom," she whispered into the phone. "You won't believe what just happened." That night, Harper didn't sleep again, but this time it wasn't from anxiety. It was from possibility. She made lists on hotel notepads, pay off Mom's medical bills, get her car repaired, or maybe replaced enroll in nursing school, find a way to give back visit the diner one last time, because that place, where it all began, still held her heart. 3 days later, Harper returned to Oaklight Grill. Dale nearly dropped a coffee pot when she walked in. "Quinn? You alive? You disappeared into the Twilight Zone." She laughed. A real one. A laugh she hadn't felt in years. "I had to take care of something," she said. "Someone took care of me, and now I have the chance to pay it forward." She left an envelope on the counter, containing enough money to renovate the entire kitchen, hire 2 new waitresses, and pay back wages to staff. No one saw her slip away. She didn't want a spotlight. She just wanted to give, like someone had given to her. Before she left town, Harper stopped by the hospital. Silas Camden was recovering in a private room. He looked smaller now, paler, but his eyes lit up when she entered. He motioned for her to sit. "No cameras," he said with a weak smile. "No news crews?" "No way," Harper replied. "This is just between us." He nodded. "I meant what I said in the letter. You changed me. You reminded me that people still care without agenda." "You changed me too," she said softly. "I was just surviving. But now, I think I might actually start living." They sat together in silence for a long moment. Then he reached out and touched her hand. "Make it count, Harper." "I will," she promised. "And I'll make sure it never ends with me." 6 months later, the diner where it all began was unrecognizable. Oaklight Grill had undergone a complete transformation. new booths with polished wood, a gleaming kitchen, fresh, staff uniforms, and a mural on the side of the building that read, in bold Navy script, "One act of kindness can change everything." Beneath it was a hand-painted image of Harper Quinn performing CPR, anonymous, faceless, but undeniably her. But Harper hadn't returned to Ohio for recognition. She came back to plant roots in the very soil she once thought would bury her, and this time she had a mission. The nonprofit was her dream, not one she'd ever dared to imagine before the stranger with silver hair collapsed into her life. But now, it was real. It was called Second Breath, a name inspired by the moment Silas Camden came back to life in her arms. Second Breath focused on two things: free CPR training in low-income communities and emergency grants for working-class caregivers, people like her who lived check to check while taking care of sick loved ones. The first center opened 2 blocks away from the diner. By the end of its second month, it had trained over 400 people, helped 16 families pay medical bills, and employed 5 women who had once worked beside Harper wiping counters and hoping for bigger tips. But despite her growing visibility, Harper had kept one thing quiet. She never told the press about Silas Camden, not about the $500,000 check, not about the brownstone, not about the man who had changed her world with a signature and a promise. Some stories are too sacred for headlines. "Harper, someone's here to see you," called one of her staffers one crisp November morning. She was in the middle of organizing. Volunteer kits, bright red bags filled with CPR manuals, first aid supplies, and an inspirational card that read, "You might be someone's only hope." She stepped into the lobby and froze. There, standing tall despite his cane, was Silas Camden. He looked older than she remembered, but healthier, stronger. His eyes, as sharp as ever, sparkled with pride. "You didn't call," he teased. "Didn't want to intrude on your recovery," he smiled. "You made good on your word, Harper Quinn." She walked over and hugged him gently. "So did you." They sat together in the center's new conference room, sunlight warming the hardwood floors, the scent of fresh brewed coffee in the air. "So," he said, gazing around, "this is where the magic happens." Harper chuckled. "It's not magic, just hard work. A lot of it." "No," he corrected softly. "It's heart. That's rarer." She looked at him with emotion building behind her eyes. "You know what haunts me?" she asked. "What if I hadn't shown up for work that night? What if I'd called in sick? What if I'd waited for someone else to help you?" Silas nodded. "Then I wouldn't be sitting here today." She swallowed hard. "And neither would this." Later that day, Harper hosted a class. She stood at the front of the room, demonstrating CPR techniques with the confidence of someone who had lived it. Teenagers, single mothers, grocery store clerks, construction workers, ordinary people watched with rapt attention. At the end of class, a woman with tired eyes and a trembling voice approached. "My son, he has epilepsy," she said. "I've always been scared something will happen and I won't know what to do." Harper took her hands and squeezed them gently. "Now you will," she said, "and that makes you powerful." The woman burst into tears, and Harper held her. Weeks passed. Winter came. Second Breath grew. Donations poured in from across the country. Media outlets began noticing. Time, the New York Times, and CNN all requested interviews. A segment aired on Good Morning America called "The Waitress Who Became a Lifesaver." But Harper stayed grounded. Every morning, she still made coffee for her staff. Every Friday, she hand-wrote thank you notes to donors. And every Sunday, she video-called her mom, who now received top-tier cancer care thanks to a private clinic Silas had arranged. Her world had changed, but her soul hadn't. One snowy evening, Harper stood. At her kitchen window in the brownstone she now called home. Snowflakes danced past the glass, blurring the lights of the city. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail. She hit play. "Miss Quinn, this is Dr. Hatcher from St. Mary's. I just wanted to let you know that a patient named Maria Velasquez, someone you trained last week, performed successful CPR on her elderly neighbor after a heart attack. She said your voice was in her head the whole time. He survived. Thought you should know." Harper put the phone down. She stared at the snow, let a tear fall. The ripple had started, and it was reaching farther than she could ever see. 3 days. Later, she was asked to speak at a national healthcare conference in Washington, D.C. She hesitated. She didn't see herself as a speaker. She was just a girl who had once counted quarters to afford a gallon of milk. But Silas called her that night. "You don't have to be polished," he said. "You just have to be honest." So she went. She stood on a massive stage under hot lights, staring out at hundreds of doctors, nurses, and emergency responders. She cleared her throat, and then she told her story. Not the part about the mansion or the check, but about the fear, the loneliness, the split-second decision in a diner that changed everything. "We are not powerless," she said into the microphone. "We are not invisible. You don't need a title to make a difference. You don't need money or fame. You need heart. You need courage. You need to move when it matters. Someone saved me by giving me a chance to give others a chance. So now I'm asking you, what will you do with your next breath?" The room was silent. Then, a standing ovation, tears, applause, unity. Harper Quinn had arrived, not as a celebrity, but as a voice. Back home, weeks later, Harper received a letter in the mail. It was from Silas, written in slightly shaky cursive. "Dear Harper, if you're reading this, it means I've finally left this world for the next. Don't mourn me. I lived my final days with purpose because you reminded me that life isn't measured in years. It's measured in what you do with your time. I've left instructions with my lawyers to transfer a final gift to you, a $5 million trust to fund. Second breath for the next decade. Use it well. Keep saving lives. And remember, some strangers aren't strangers. They're just angels who haven't met you yet." Forever grateful, Silas Camden Harper sat quietly on the porch that night, letter in her lap, her heart heavy but full. The snow had started again. She looked up, her breath visible in the cold, then whispered, "Thank you." Because now she had everything, and she was going to make sure everyone else had something too.